We've made self-care a commodity, a to-do list, a thing to do. We talk about we are doing self-care. I've recently realized that I've gotten self-care, or at least the idea of what self-care really is, wrong over the years. Even here on the podcast, I've talked about it in the wrong perspective and the wrong approach. And you'll be hearing me over future episodes that I'll be talking about self-care differently. And we're going to talk about how we use self care in our business and we use it to build a gentle business. So, today, join me as we dive into the question, what does self care really look like? Welcome to Doing Business Gently. I'm your host, Marta Gertson, and this is a podcast for women who are ready to think and do business from a place of purpose and intention. If that sounds like you and you've wondered what it means to have a gentle and aligned business, you are in the right place. This is a safe place where we talk about life business integration, and we approach this idea by creating a life first business, one that is aligned to fit you, your values, priorities, personality, and the current season of life you are in. We also talk about how to find business clarity so that you're not constantly second guessing every decision you make in your business. We also talk about how our faith and our business can work together, and about how to do this all from a habit and a place of rest. So join me today as we take a look at what self-care really is and how it can be an important part of building your gentle business. In previous episodes, and as I'm talking with women, I have described self-care as a habit, which I still firmly believe in. I believe that our businesses are built on healthy habits, and how we take care of ourselves needs to be a habit because we're not ignoring what we need and we're not just rushing off to the next thing. But I have talked about it that it needs to be on your schedule, that you're going to schedule a rest break or you're going to make an appointment where you are going to go take care of yourself, and that it needs to be such a habit that we do it because it's the next thing on our to-do list or schedule. In fact, the word rest is part of my gentle business framework of clarity, alignment, and rest. Now, while creating a habit of rest and working from a place of rest, I don't believe that's wrong. But it's not quite right either. And this is something that has come up as I started working with a new counselor over the past several months. And we've really talked about, what does self-care mean? What do I need to know about self-care for me? And not pay attention or hang my hat on what social media has said that self-care is and how it has distorted the view of what realistic life-giving self-care is. I do firmly believe that rest or self-care, or however you want to define self-care for what you need, is a foundation of a gentle business. I do believe that if you are looking to design a gentle business, self-care has to be included in that design. As women, we are caregivers, nurturers, and we like to help everyone that we can, and we often put our family and business before our own needs. And again, this is not necessarily wrong. There are seasons when our business is a priority. There are times when we need to put family a priority. But when do we make ourselves a priority? But as we are those caregivers and nurturers and wanting to help everyone, this is also a recipe for burnout if we do not take the time to understand what self-care is. But it can take us so long to recognize self-care as simply as it is, and rather, instead of this big to-do list that we think we need to have. We've poured so much out in caring for others and caring for our clients and making sure that our business is running smoothly and that we're taking care of our family in the way they need to be taken care of, that we are too tired to take care of ourselves. And speaking from personal experience, burnout is not a pretty place to be, because we often get to the point of burnout where we're just pushing through to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And what we need to do is take a step back and question, is that pushing through the next best step? Burnout and continuing to hustle to the next thing it saps our energy. Saps our physical, mental, emotional, and creative energies. If you are ignoring what your body needs mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, you are missing out on a foundational pillar of a gentle business. So I'd like to challenge you to redefine what self care is. There's a few things that I still believe in that I'm not changing. Self care is not a luxury item. It is a necessity. I will always say that. It's not a when I have time I will do XYZ. It's I need to be aware of what my body, my mind, and my spirit needs and not push through and ignore what I need. I have an earlier episode, episode 11, where I shared about the work of Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, who says we need 7 different types of rest: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, creative, relational, and sensory. And because this is a podcast for entrepreneurs, I like to add in an 8th that we need to learn to rest from our work. This is not to say that you need to practice all 8 areas of rest daily, weekly, or even monthly. We have seasons where one area of our life and business needs more attention than others. Self care at its core is learning to pay attention and acknowledge what your body is probably trying to tell you, and sometimes screaming at you, "This is what I need." In our Instagram and Pinterest world, we have made self care into an industry, a checklist of how to practice self care, how to practice hygge at home, and how to incorporate that into all the different seasons of our lives. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But what's happening is we've taken that list of things, and here, air quotes, do self care. We're often doing it because we have an expected outcome, an expected result we want to get out of it. And if we are trying to do self care, we need to ask, is this really helpful? Or am I expecting a certain return on investment of my time of self care? Or is this really nurturing and taking care of myself in a very basic way? When we expect that outcome, when we're trying to do self care, it often makes self care a lot harder. For a very long time, each week when I would do my weekly reset routine, I had a section in there of ways I could practice self care. And I would make a big list of things that I could do. And the point was not to make a list and make sure that I do every single one of those. The goal was to give myself some options so that on some days, if my feet are tired, go do a foot bath. If I'm really tired, go to bed early. But again, I was getting the point of self-care wrong. When I look back at those lists and lists and lists of just very basic to do things for self-care, I don't think I did many of them, if any at all, because I was expecting something out of it. I was expecting a specific result. As I've talked with my counselor and I've learned at how I was viewing the need to do self care, I had made it into a thing to cross off my to do list. And I felt guilty if I didn't do self care that day or that week. This did nothing to help me, nor did it help me in my business. And it definitely did not help me cultivate a gentle business. So if we need to stop doing self care, what does that mean self care really is, or what does it look like? One of the first things is just saying, you know what? I'm going to pay attention. Some people call this mindfulness. Some people call it checking in. But when you are looking at what does my body need? What does my brain need? Am I struggling spiritually? Is my faith needing some extra attention right now? Am I feeling emotionally and physically drained? Paying attention to what our body's needs are, that is self-care. So maybe it's just breathing. This is something I've been working on with my counselor a lot, is I can breathe very shallowly. I can breathe not from the belly, but also just from almost a fight or flight response, even though I don't even realize I'm doing it. And checking in from time to time. How's my posture? Am I giving my lungs room to breathe? Am I giving my room for my diaphragm to expand? Just learning to take that quick moment to say, I'm just going to sit here and take a few breaths, take a little bit of a reset before moving on to the next thing. This is not about expecting a result. This is not about judging that I'm breathing shallowly yet again. It's just noticing. And over time, you will start to notice how your body reacts to certain stimuli. You had a difficult client call. You had an email land in your inbox that just makes your whole body go, ugh. Oh, I need to do marketing. Oh, I need to make sure that the podcast gets done at a certain time. Oh, I need to do bookkeeping. And if you pay attention, you will know when it's appropriate to stop and just be for a few minutes before that difficult client call, to give yourself a permission to pause before recording that video or stepping into a task that you've been procrastinating on. So, breathing is just a very basic element of self care. Another one we can also look at is, are we drinking enough water? Hydration and dehydration is a bigger deal than most of us realize. Noticing that you're thirsty and just that I'm going to go drink a glass of water is saying, you know what? I hear you. I'm finally listening. You would like some water. I'm going to go take care of you. And when our bodies realize that even though we've been yelling at us and we have been ignoring it, but now we're paying attention, your body is going to thank you. And you will be amazed a lot of times when you go take that extra drink of water, you're pausing, you're taking a deep breath, you're taking a moment away from your computer, and you're giving your body what it needs. And when you do that, you can go back to that difficult client. You can go back to your office with a different frame of mind, with a different approach. And that is self care. The word Sila, that's a core element of my brand in Sila Studios, is an invitation to pause, is to pause, is to calmly think. Pausing can be incredible for self care. And it doesn't have to be long. It may be that you need to take a deep breath. Maybe you need to go outside for a minute. Maybe you need to just walk around the house and discharge some of that crazy energy because you've been really serving your clients and you're really excited, but your body is about ready to burst and you need to go to say, you know what? I need to go spend some of this energy. You know, the times that we tell our kids, if you have kids, or for me, my nieces and nephews, I would go run around the house. Or I would say, I'll go run around the house with you. And of course, I'm done after lap 2 and they're going on lap 10. But we want them to expend that energy. It's the same for us, even if we're sitting at a desk, even if we're sitting here at a microphone recording. But if you've been on Zoom for hours, if you've been doing a lot of marketing, if you've been doing a lot of deep thinking work for your clients, pausing, breathing, going and taking another glass of water, this is what self-care looks like. The other things that we can look at are nutrition and movement. Are we paying attention to what we eat? Are we paying attention to what our body is really craving in the moment? Or are we just rushing off to the next thing and eating something that's easy? I have been working on my relationship with chocolate, and I actually fasted from chocolate for close to a month, maybe a little bit over a month. And I realized, one, I could survive without it. Shock of all shocks, I know. I also realized that there were reasons I was eating chocolate, not because I wanted it or needed it, but it was just something easy and it was something that my body craved as a distraction. And so I've been getting to change my relationship with chocolate. I'm starting to change my relationship with what I eat. That is just a simple version of self-care. Do you need to get up and move and get away from your desk for a few minutes? Do you need to go stretch? Walk, go outside, dance, something that just gets you away from your devices and off of your computer. Another way to look at this is that self-care are just moments of paying attention, mindful moments, moments of where you're saying, okay, I'm checking in. How am I feeling emotionally? How am I feeling physically? Am I reacting a certain way or craving a certain food or having an outburst of emotion using halt? Am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? That in itself, that check-in moment is self-care. Now, if you notice the things that we've talked about here, nothing here is elaborate. Nothing here is complicated. It's saying I'm going to pay attention and learn to recognize the signals when I'm feeling depleted and go do something about it. If you need a few ideas to consider, one is that dreaded word, nobody really likes it, but that word boundary. with clients. And sometimes it's even harder to place boundaries on our own time, our own schedule. Where do you need to set some healthy boundaries in your business and your off hours? Do you find yourself rushing from one appointment to the next? How about adding in some buffers between appointments? A lot of scheduling calendars will allow you to put buffers in. Sometimes I have to limit how many calls I do in a day. I make sure there's at least a 15 to 30-minute buffer between each call with a client, or even the number of calls I have in a day. That, for me, has become an important piece of self-care. You can take a look at not eating meals at your desk, because a lot of times if we're eating at our desk, we're not paying attention to what we're eating. We're not paying attention to how full we are. We're not paying attention to how our body is reacting to the food we're eating. Maybe one day this week, you need to say, I'm going to go eat my lunch or my meal or my snack at the kitchen table instead of at my computer. Do you need to go for a walk? Walking for me is a daily non-negotiable, unless the weather absolutely says no. But moving my body, getting outside, looking for and absorbing in the beauty of nature is something that is a vital component to my self-care. Maybe you just need to increase your water intake by 1 glass today and see how does it make you feel. Here's my invitation and my challenge to you. Pick one area to focus on this week. One, do you just simply need to redefine what self-care looks like for you? Do you need to remember that your body is asking for something specific, but you've been ignoring it, or you've been doing self-care instead of really taking care and nurturing yourself? Do you need to check on your breathing? Do you need to check on your water intake? Do you need to make sure that you're pausing for a moment between tasks, or maybe giving yourself a rest break because you know you're just tired and you have some difficult things in the afternoon coming up, or even good things, but they're going to tire you out. So you're going to schedule a little bit of extra rest. Do you need to pay attention to your nutrition? Do you need to pay attention to how your body is reacting to food, or stop eating at your desk? Or do you just need to get up and stretch more regularly? Do you need to get up and move your body and help you take care of you? What is one simple thing that you could do today and give your body, your emotions, your mental health, your spiritual health, your business health? What is one thing you could do today to give one of those areas in your life self-care? What are they asking for that you can say yes to right now? When you've learned to pay attention, your body is going to thank you. When you learn to pay attention to what your body needs, you're going to be able to enforce those boundaries better between your business and your home and your off hours. And when you learn to pay attention, you're going to start noticing other things your body needs. And that is the time to maybe layer on different versions of self-care. Do you need to take a mini retreat? Do you just need to take a day off of work? Do you need to take yourself out on an artist date? Would it help you to have a journal sitting on your desk so that when you have something that what you want to note, that you can just write down a few lines in your journal? Do you need to start a gratitude practice that you write a few things down that you're thankful about your business or your life? When you're doing that from a layering perspective and you're adding on new things because you've paid attention to what your body needs, or what your mind needs, or what your spirit needs, then you're doing extra things or extra layers of self-care from intention and purpose, and that you're recognizing what your body needs. As entrepreneurs, we like to rush from one thing to the next without really thinking through the impact of what we're rushing into. And so when you're learning to pay attention, this is a habit. This is something that you have to move gently into. It's not something you're going to learn overnight. So keep it simple. Pick one simple thing that you can do and say, I hear you. I acknowledge it. I'm sorry for ignoring you for so long. That is self-care. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for listening as we talk about self-care and how it plays an important role in designing a gentle business. Because if you're not taking care of you, you are not going to have a gentle business. In the next episode, we're going to continue looking at another gentle business building block that helps us to keep learning to create a simple and sustainable business where we can do business gently.